for the food and agriculture industry to engage with the ITI SAC. So there's companies who engage with the ITI SAC from the food and agriculture industry to share cyber threat information and make themselves more prepared. So it's a real pleasure to be here today. Prior to starting my own company and working for the ITI SAC, I spent time at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, building their cyber security program. And prior to that, I was in a state government myself. I was a legislative aide to a New Jersey assemblyman. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Next, I'm going to have Andrew Rose introduce himself. He's got control of the clicker too, so he's the man in charge.
Hi, good afternoon. Andrew Rose, for those of you who don't know me. I started the Cyber Ag program back when I was at Farm Credit and recognized that there was a great deal of complacency in the agricultural industry about the threats that cybersecurity posed, as well as there was a lack of awareness in the cybersecurity community about the needs of the agricultural community. And Mike Tilkey at ESAC, the Eastern Shore Entrepreneurship Center, myself, got together, but we couldn't really get this thing off the ground without the support of the Department of Commerce. And one of Secretary Schultz's folks, Heather Graham, stepped forward and really supported us, and that was the initial seed money we needed to get this thing launched. There's a lot of interest around the country about what we're doing, and we're building this slowly, quietly right now. So first quarter of next year, you'll probably see a lot more press releases about what's going on here. But Secretary Schultz, again, thank you so much for putting the right people in the right seats, because that means a lot to us.
That's right. Thank you, Andrew. And thank you to Heather. For all of you, everybody has to know Heather. Really good stuff that's happening. So I just want to move forward with some of the questions that we have for the panel itself. But the first question, I just want to say, why Maryland? And I guess I'll just go ahead and, say that Maryland really is the perfect place for cybersecurity and agriculture for a couple of reasons. But I'll just say two that come to mind, that two of our key industry in the state of Maryland are agriculture and cybersecurity. Agriculture happens to be our #1 industry as far as prosperity is concerned. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, many of you hopefully had seen that Governor Hogan released a video promoting agriculture as our largest industry in the state of Maryland. And most people don't know that and all of the different facets of what the industry actually means. But for being one of the smallest states, in terms of size, not power, Maryland's thousands of farms and countless agriculture businesses are a force to be reckoned with. Then there's our cybersecurity industry and our significant federal assets throughout the state, and those are continuing to increase as well. We also have an enormous number of cyber companies, investors, and incubators and other resources to support cyber safety, not only in Maryland, but throughout the company. And that is one of the areas that we do benefit from because of our proximity to the nation's capital. Our educational institutions are preparing our workforces for the challenges that are ahead. Governor Hogan and UMBC President Freeman Hrabowski, I would say former almost President Freeman Hrabowski, I'll be really sad, recently signed a landmark agreement to establish a new Maryland Center for Innovative Computing. Also, UMBC, going back to my days at the Department of Labor, was the first university in the nation to start an apprenticeship for cybersecurity at their university. That was a big deal. This will connect students at the MCIC, the Maryland Center for Innovative Computing. It's going to connect the students and the faculty with leaders of state and local leaders to workforce and technology issues. And there is nothing more important in these industries than a very valuable workforce. I always like to say you can't have economic development without workforce development, and you can't have workforce development without economic development. It goes both ways. The agreement that has been signed will also create a cyber rapid response team that can deploy quickly to assist state agencies and local governments who experience attacks and data breaches. This should give all 5 Maryland regions access to assistance as the attacks occur. And I think we're going to have that question that's going to come up in a little bit, because the most important thing is, to be able to get things as they're happening moving forward. So I'm going to move into some of my questions, and I'm going to start off because you don't want to hear from me. You want to hear from the experts that are in the field. And so my first question is going to be for you, Scott. if you're ready for it.
Sure.
You say yes.
Yes.
We're
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
We're ready.
Yes.
We're going to do this. Okay. You've been an advocate for the cybersecurity awareness in the agriculture and food supply chain for several years, as you noted in your bio. What is ITISAC in kindergarten terms, and why is there an interest in the food ag supply chain?
That's very good, thank you. So the acronym ITISAC, the Information Technology Information Sharing and Analysis Center. So the ITISAC for short. And what we do is we provide a technologies, tools, trusted environment for technology companies to share cyber threats information with each other. These are everything from these indicators of attack to, hey, we've seen something bad, to, hey, we're working on a new technology project internally, how do we build security into this? So our member companies are pretty advanced, but our member companies are also not so advanced. So there's a diverse set of capabilities within our membership to combat threat, which provides a scaling capability for everybody. So the concept is, if you're very well resourced and you have great capabilities, you can learn from other companies with similar capabilities, but you can also teach other companies without those capabilities and how to build them and how to become more mature. The IT ISAC does not seem like really a natural home for the food and agriculture industry, but it really is. The food and agriculture companies leverage a lot of the same core information technology that other companies do, right? That everyone has computers, they have servers, they have networks that they need to secure. So there's a natural fit there. But they're also, the food and agriculture industry uses technology that is unique to the industry. So by having members from the food and agriculture community participate in the ITISAC, these companies get the advantage of engaging with some of the world's leading technology companies about where the cyber threats are and how to mitigate them. But they also have a private forum reserved for food and agriculture companies where they can talk about these unique security issues, these unique security challenges, and these unique threat actors that are targeted in the food and agriculture industry. So it's we're a nonprofit. We're governed. We receive all of our funding from membership dues. So our members own the organization and they drive the organization. And I have a team here behind me that helps provide threat analysis and facilitate sharing of the data and the tactics and the techniques that the bad guys are using.
Great. So that's really interesting as to what those resources are that are there to help us in the industry to be able to move forward should there be an attack. Andrew, tell me a little bit about the attack that happened, the JBS attack. So that was a big deal this summer, right?
Well, it was, and you hit the nail on the head. It was this past summer. These things, it seems like it was eons ago that JBS was taken down, but if you scroll back to Memorial Day, this past Memorial Day, and the largest provider of processor of meat in the world goes offline. I mean, these criminals knew the timing to pull that trigger, and it wasn't they got in there the day before. They had likely been there for up to 4 months. That's typically how long these bad guys are in these systems. And the way they got in was pretty funny. It was an old network administrator login with a weak password. I mean, it was cyber hygiene 101 where they fell short and they got in there and had this impact. Now, this served as a wake-up call to the food and ag industry, that they can no longer be complacent about the threats that are out there and the impact of these threats. And there's an interesting, Scott has one of his peers, Dr. Norton out of Auburn University, talks about cascading effects. And when JBS got hit, because of their position within the whole food and ag continuum, both behind them, so animals that can't go to processing, they got to go somewhere. They got to go to a feedlot, and they put on weight. They get girthy. So it's hard for them to go through the machine. So there's going to be a slowdown on the back end, and then on the front end, we want to cook some meat on the grills, and there's no meat to come in. So the ripples went both directions. Now, JBS recognized this, and JBS paid the ransom, $11 million in Bitcoin. And a lot of people weren't happy about that, but it was a business decision because I think JBS recognized the cascading effects that could occur if they were offline here, Australia, and other places at the same time. I know Representative Mahoney was not happy with them and took them to task during one of the hearings, but you know what? It was a business decision. I know the FBI was not happy about that because paying ransom then encourages other people to pay ransom to get these things going. And I reminded the FBI that they're their own worst enemy because they clawed part of that ransom back. So when you're making a business decision like that, and you know that law enforcement might be able to pull some of that money back, you're probably more willing to do so. And then lastly, like I said, these bad guys are in there for an average of 4 months. In addition to shredding your backups first, they go and find your insurance documents. How much will your insurance company pay out for this ransom? So they will deploy the customer service representatives. They will call you up, say, hey, we know it's Memorial Day. We know you want to get back online. We know your insurance coverage is for $11 million. Why don't you go ahead and just pay this, and we'll take care of it and be back online momentarily. Now, the good thing about this, or I guess if there is a good thing about this, the gang that attacked them, kind of junior league when you talk about ransomware gangs, Revile. And so they attacked them, they attacked a few others. President Biden called Putin on July 9th and said, if you don't take care of this, we will. July 12th, Revile was offline. And from what I've read in open source information, the FBI was preparing to do something, but this happened before they could pull that trigger. So ransomware is a big deal. We're going to go into cyber hygiene and why it's everyone's job to report things that may or may not occur or things that look anomalous during the workday. But this actually had a fairly happy ending overall.
Well, that's good. And Scott, as a nonprofit, you guys track what happens to these cyber criminals, right?
Yes.
The bad actors, the meanies that are trying to take our meat away from us at Memorial Day and 4th of July. So what is the outcome for some of these events that are happening?
Yeah, so that's really, really good question. Andrea has a really good perspective on JBS. So where the outcome are is, it depends. Some of them are good outcomes where we get money back or we get guys that go to jail. Some of them aren't so good because a lot of these adversaries live in areas where we don't have law enforcement presence, we don't have extradition agreements. To be candid, some of these are running with are operating with protection and the acknowledgement of the nation states that they live in. They'll work for a security service during the day, and then they'll work for, make some extra money on their own at night. And the country's kind of look the other way because they're good at their jobs, right? So these actors are complex, they're sophisticated, but they're also not complex and not sophisticated, depending on which actor is. And unfortunately, the food and agriculture industry is seeing the same attacks that all of the other industries are seeing. We're seeing attacks by nation states who are interested in intellectual property. They're getting attacked by criminal gangs who are interested in making money. They're getting attacked by non-sophisticated criminal gangs or just spray and pray attacks where they're hoping that somebody will click on a link that they're not supposed to, and hey, now we have access to someone's bank account or personal information that we can sell online. But there are unique actors within the industry, social activists, people who have a social agenda that they're pushing. They may not like the product or some operations within the industry, and they may be misinformed or be spreading misinformation about industry. So these actors are complex, and what happens to them depends in large part whether our law enforcement can have access to can go out and arrest people. The type of law enforcement cooperation with other nation states. We have some really great law enforcement personnel. They do excellent work. They do their best. They're extremely underfunded, but they, with the resources they have, they do really good work.
Yeah, so I just want to set the stage as to, what is the actual problem, right, that we're trying to solve, right? And there's all of these companies, big and small, that have had these types. We've heard about a lot of them on the news. We haven't heard about some of them. But there was another incident in John Deere. Has anybody heard about the company John Deere before? I mean, it's like one of our biggest companies in the country, let alone in agriculture, right? So there was an incident with John Deere, even those largest of companies that we think that can handle that.
Indeed. If you look at the top 20 manufacturers of farm equipment, the top 4 are not Chinese. John Deere, C&H, AGCO, I'm drawing a blank on the last one there. No, that's C&H. The rest of them, the following 16, many of those are Chinese organizations. And if you look at China, think about it what you will. China adopted the Soviet Union's 5-year plan model. So every 5 years they put out a new 5-year plan, and they publish these things. These are guidelines for the whole country. We're on the 14th 5-year plan right now, and I went through and read this, and if you extrapolate the agriculture sector, one of the key things they want to focus on is farm equipment. They want to get the next generation of farm equipment. They also want germplasms. They want to make sure they've got all the genetic information for themselves. They call it research and development, deploy $360 million to get there, but you can kind of discern what's going on. What happened with John Deere was a little bit different. John Deere tweeted that, I don't remember exact tweet, I heard they tweeted something about, we don't have any vulnerabilities. And if you're a group of people out there on the internet, that's a red flag. They want to go and test it.
Underestimate me as you
I
go,
know,
right?
that's a challenge.
Well, it was a challenge, and in the bug hunting community, they scan Twitter for companies that profess to have strong defenses. They go and test them. It's kind of a fun thing. It's a thrill to find these. So when they went after John Deere, unfortunately for John Deere, there weren't a whole lot of ways to stop anybody, and it became very embarrassing. And in John Deere's defense, they had never encountered someone that was ethical saying, you've got some problems here. So they didn't have a mechanism on how to process that information. And unfortunately, they fumbled the ball in the onset. And there's a hacker conference every year in Vegas called DEF CON. So they went live with their reveal at DEF CON, and that really caused a lot of significant ripples throughout the ag community, but farm equipment and precision agriculture in particular. Additionally, the C&H got hit as well. C&H didn't make the headlines that John Deere made. The good outcome, however, is John Deere said, hey, wait a minute. We can learn from this event. Let's put in a vulnerability disclosure program, so if someone else sees something, we will compensate them. We'll send them a t-shirt, we'll send them a check or what have you. So these security researchers now incentivized. I have the Google slide up here. Google encourages people, try and find a flaw, and we'll compensate you for finding that flaw, because we'd rather the good guys find the flaw than someone out there that has malicious intent coming after us and getting into our systems. And I like the fact that a bug hunter is an atypical type of career path, that someone who's interested in just solving problems, figuring things out. That could be a wonderful way for them to kind of get introduced into the cybersecurity realm.
Yeah, so I get Butch's bug service that comes to my house every quarter to spray for bugs. But I think this is a different type of a bug. So just an advertisement for anybody that lives in or around Frederick, but Butch's bug service is a great place.
Awesome.
But I know that CISA has done webinars on this, right?
Yes.
And so coming from where I used to sit at the Department of Labor and we talk about different workforce opportunities, how does somebody get into this type of bug hunting? Like, in order to be able to go to Las Vegas to the big annual convention and try to trick these systems into making sure that we mitigate those risks. What does that look like?
Yeah, sure. So there's lots of ways to do it, right? There are companies who hire researchers and then kind of pull their resources together and sell the service to other companies. Hey, we have researchers. Some of them like to be called researchers. Some of them like to be called white hat hackers. But we have researchers that we have on payroll, and we will deploy them to test your networks and report vulnerabilities to you. You have other researchers who operate independently. You say, hey, look, I have my own skill set, I have my days on Java, and in the night I like the hobby and I like to report these vulnerabilities. A lot of the companies have coordinated vulnerability disclosure programs in place where they encourage researchers to look at their code and report vulnerabilities to them. And then some of these companies have financial rewards. So if you disclose a significant vulnerability that they weren't aware about and nobody else proposed to them, there's a potential way for you to earn some money for that. and other companies to say, hey, thank you, we'll give you credit when we issue a patch to fix the bug. When we exterminate the bug, we will give you credit for doing it. So there are multiple career opportunities for the government, not on the DHS side, but on the military side, and there's offensive capabilities. We need people to go and look for bugs on networks owned by people outside of the United States. So there really is a really profitable and potentially fulfilling, rewarding opportunities out there for people who are technical, who want to make a difference in a positive way, and who are interested in using their skill sets to reduce the risk rather than using those skill sets to exploit the risk.
Yeah, it's interesting because the world of cyber is very multifaceted, right? We use it as a very general, generic type of a statement. But when we talk about cyber, there's the protection from cyber attacks, and then there's also, the hackers and everything else that's involved with it. There's the hardware that's involved with it. There's the software and the people mentality of that, right? Yeah. And there's some areas of the world that have really seen this as a way for them to make a statement as to how they're going to protect themselves in their industries. And it's my understanding that Estonia has done a phenomenal job in being able to protect not only the government side of it, but help to assist in the industry side as well. Why Estonia?
I know, Estonia seems like such an odd place, and actually that's why many people don't even know where it's located. It's actually part of Russia at one point. And now, of course, it's an independent country, and they actually suffered a rather severe cyber attack. I believe it was in 2007, and it was from Russia. Instead of responding through the military perspective, because of course they're not going to be able to do that, they're a very small country, so they decided to go ahead and respond to it in terms of cyber security. So, they ended up becoming or transforming themselves into a digital society. So they really underwent a major transformation as a country. And cybersecurity obviously is a very important aspect of that. So what they did is they ended up the government made cyber education a national priority, because cybersecurity is not something that's just siloed. It's no longer something that's just part of one industry. We've always thought of cybersecurity as the IT's problem, right? The information technology problem. Or that's the cyber problem. You're going to hire somebody that's going to come in and take care of that. But that's no longer the case, right? It's spread across all industries. Hence why we're sitting here in front of all of you today. We're talking about cybersecurity in the agricultural industry. 10 years ago, you would have laughed. You would have said, I don't even know what you're talking about. Cybersecurity in ag? Yes, because we are making technological advances in agriculture, right? Yes, you all know what I'm talking about, and it's fantastic, and it's going to keep on going. Unfortunately, though, so are our cyber attacks that are occurring. So we're looking at Estonia as a global example. They have not only taken their country and made it basically paperless, they actually issue everybody IDs. They're these state IDs, and they do everything from the government to healthcare to any kind of services. Everything is done digitally, and they're continuing every year to improve upon things. Cybersecurity is baked in. They actually thought of it as secured by design, that particular approach, which is basically looking at cybersecurity, embedding it from the very beginning, and taking security into account. So that is one of the things that that we need to stress when we talk about the approach here in our nation, is how are we going to do that? So the way that we look at it is that cybersecurity is something that should be part of our education system from the very beginning. Okay? They're looking at it that way in Estonia, and they actually have several plans each year. Right now, we're looking at the 2019 to 22 plan. And when you go through all 71 pages, because you have nothing better to do at night, like I do, and you want to read through everything, education is a priority for them. So that's part of the reason why we're looking at Estonia. They've done this wonderful transformation, and they've included education as part of it. Okay? So do you want to click to the next slide for me? So in terms of that, we talk about the challenges and the solutions that they have noted, and this is something that I think you also see in the United States as well, and specifically in Maryland. Teachers, we talk about they have weak experience in cyber. I'm the co-chair for the Maryland Cyber Security Education committee that's part of NCCE, which was an organization that the governor had established, I believe, in 2015, I want to say. And in part of that, we look at our educators. We look at the type of training that they have. So in Estonia, they decided to provide training and not low education, hopefully that's not the case, but lower level competitions in order to prepare their educators. The educators are the ones on the front lines. They are the ones that are in the trenches with our students that inspire the students to actually go into cybersecurity or to think about cybersecurity in a positive manner. So educating our teachers is a very important aspect. And so in Maryland, we're taking it to heart. We actually are building pathways and curriculum, and we're also building a Maryland cyber range in conjunction with UMBC. So we are doing these types of things to also sort of like Estonia, to make sure that our students, make sure that our future workforce has a firm foundation. The other thing we're looking at is this misconception, okay? That's the thing that they also have. The misconceptions is that hacking leads to criminal activities. And as a cyber teacher, I will say that that is a very, very significant myth that I hear all the time. And that's not true. I do promote for my students to think outside the box. I want them to think like an adversary. And many times you're going, why would you want a teacher to encourage that? Because I want them to develop the skills. I want them to be aware, and I want them to take preventative measures and understand all the aspects of it. So realize if their first initiation with cybersecurity is a positive one, maybe they're in what we'll talk about CTFs, maybe they're in a competition, maybe they have a really cool, they do well, they build confidence within the classes and whatnot. Having that positive experience rather than getting hacked leads them to have a more positive and comfortable outlook and understand the integration cybersecurity should have within their life. Hence, secure by design, right? And then, of course, the last one are the female participants. I'm a member of WISIS, which is Women in Cybersecurity, and we also promote women in cybersecurity within CAMI, which is our Cybersecurity Association of Maryland, as well as other events that are around Maryland. Girls Who Code, that's also another particular organization. We encourage women, and actually everyone, but women in particular, because they tend to have a low confidence in themselves. And this was just like we saw in math and STEM all those years ago. We're seeing it in cybersecurity too. Usually, and I love my guys here, but it's usually a bunch of white guys in cybersecurity, and that's what everybody thinks of. But that's not the case. And actually, we're also seeing an increase in our Latino and our African American groups and our women, our non-binary. We're seeing that it has become an area of growth for all of these particular groups of people. It's not just one thing. So they actually identified it in Estonia as well. So we're providing equal opportunities. Flip the next one. All right, so what does this mean for us? So as I was saying, Estonia has this great approach. We're also integrating these same type of approaches. But how are we going to do this for cyber ed? As I said, cybersecurity is for everybody. It's normalized through everything. You have cyber, as Chris Inglis notes, who is our National Cyber Director, you have cyber for few, you have cyber for many, you have cyber for all, okay? Cyber for few means you have cyber in your name, okay? Cybersecurity Program Manager, I'm an analyst, I'm a cyber analyst, I do all these types of things, right? Cyber, that means those people are on it, they know what they're talking about. The cyber for many is the cyber people that they understand how it works, they know it's important, they integrate it. When you have cyber for all, okay, cyber for all is all of us, it's everybody. It's cyber hygiene, it's something that everybody needs to have as part of their daily lives. So with cyber ag, we talk about having cyber and agricultural education for all students, okay? Cyber shouldn't be just something that a select group of students get to come in and they're part of the career technology education and they're all gonna go out and be, they're all gonna work as cyber analysts, they're gonna be pen testers, they're gonna be bug hunters, that's great. But guess what? Those things are necessary in our agricultural community, okay? With this advance of technology, as I was saying earlier, we need people to protect us. But we also need them to have an understanding of agriculture, okay? That's one of the important things. It's a marriage of two particular industries together, right? And the cool thing is, I have to say, as a teacher or as an educator, I have an opportunity to work with students who come into me and say, I like cyber, but I'm an English major, or I'm a psych major, or I'm a science major. Well, guess what? you're going to use cybersecurity, you're perfect. You're exactly what I want because you're somebody that has an understanding of, let's say, the agricultural community. They have an understanding of how granaries work and how all the agricultural content works, and I don't understand that. I'm learning. I have farmers near me. They were spraying manure the other night. It was lovely. So I know that, but I don't understand like how all the machinery works and whatnot. So how do we protect that? And so that's where the marriage of the two. So one of the things we talked about was the resources and the training. And this summer, right, we're going to be working in Southern Maryland and on the Eastern Shore, and we're going to actually have 300. Andrew, can you help me out with that?
That's 300 to 400 students, yeah.
Yes.
That's the projected to be. So.
And we're going to host a curriculum. We're going to combine agriculture and cybersecurity and put it together for them. And we're going to roll out a curriculum and give them an opportunity to experience. Because some of these students think that, cybersecurity is just something those smart kids do. It's just something those math-oriented students do. It's just something that the computer science students do. That is not the case. Cybersecurity is for everybody, and it's everybody's responsibility. So we're going to give them the opportunity to play on cyber ranges, to get their hands dirty, to actually understand cybersecurity concepts. They're going to walk back into school in the fall and say, I have an understanding of how this works and how I can be part of the cyber industry, being part of agriculture. Because we need them, we need our future, we need our students.
That's right, Kim. And so you're speaking our language now. So we have like individual businesses here. We have a lot of associations here, a lot of people that have access to a lot of people. So how does our crowd here, how do they access this potential opportunity for students in their area to be able to learn about that?
Sure. So we're looking at the different school districts across Maryland. We have cybersecurity. It's in all the different high schools. We're actually growing and we're developing the program and the curriculum. So that's coming up, which is fabulous. And that's in conjunction with MSDE, the Maryland State Department of Education. And I work very closely with them. So that's also something that we're developing. We're also developing the Maryland Cyber Range as well. So that's coming into fruition, and that'll give access to every student in the state of Maryland to be able to conduct cyber exercises and to be able to have these created exercises already done, that they're able to work on specifically authentic exercises to
Hack into other people's computers.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're going to hack.
They're going to be able to hack, right?
Yeah.
Safely. But it's not. But that's the thing in agriculture, guys, is that the vulnerabilities are different for every single industry.
Right.
So we have to think about that, and that's what we're going to provide them.
Right, and so obviously the agriculture industry is a little bit different, and
Yes.
we have to be able to provide people with that opportunity. And so this is a great opportunity for everybody that's sitting here and everybody that they know to talk about what those essential needs are. But if you guys were going to recommend something for our friends to recommend to their friends, what are those like one or two recommendations? Where do you start with this? Scott, I mean, where do you start? If you're sitting out there and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is a big problem, it's too big for me to start. Where do you start?
Yeah, so there's lots of things that you can do for very low cost. Number one, I hope at this point everyone is running some type of antivirus software both on their phones and on their computers. You'll be surprised at how many people don't have that and disable Windows Defender, which comes with Windows machines now, right? So I want to make sure you have that. Number two, back up your information. Online backups are nice and easy. You can subscribe to your service. You can use Microsoft, when you have your machine, comes out of the box, and it'll kind of ask you to create an online backup. You should probably do that. Make USB drives or some other removable storage device, back your computer up on that as well. Because some of these attackers, when they do ransomware, they go after the online backups. So don't take your USB drive, put it on your keychain and take it with you everywhere you go. Put it someplace safe in the house that you have it, or your office someplace safe, so you have a backup copy of it if you need it.
And don't put your password on a
Don't
sticky
put
note
it-
on your computer.
Yes, do not do that. Mom and dad, right? So, and then, so we talked about antivirus software, the password, two-factor authentication, right?
Yes.
Multi-factor authentication. People reuse passwords, right, which is not great. We brought this back to life. Password managers will help you with that. For multi-factor authentication, someone will need a password and a code that they send to your cell phone, or a app-based authentication is probably even better. So someone needs something you know, which is your password, and something you have, which is this code. So deploying, during the antivirus, automatic updates to of the machines, your backups, and multi-factor authentication. It's amazing. All these things are simple. They're easy to do. They're pretty low cost, and they can reduce your attack surface tremendously. If you do those things, you reduce your risk exponentially.
Andrew, where can the average guy go for help?
So I'm glad you asked that. The FBI is taking, law enforcement is taking fire from all angles right now. They don't have the resources necessarily to address every single thing coming in there, so they need us. And as Kim said, people may be our weakest link, but people can be also our strongest defense. The more educated we are about what's happening and the ability to report. So if something happens, let's say you get a funny email, you recognize it's funny, you delete it, and you go on your day. If you go here and report that you got a funny email, now the law enforcement would start establishing trends and started getting ahead of these things and responding to it. Also, let's say something bad happens and you need help. There's so many phone numbers and agencies out there. IC3.gov is the clearinghouse to go and report anything that might occur, and they can respond accordingly. So it might be a field officer that comes out from the city you're closest to, it could be a specialist, it could be a combination of folks, but they can coordinate on the back end. So if there's one thing you take away from here today as a business owner, it's IC3.gov.
That's incredible. I didn't even know that existed. So this is something that government resources, state, local governments could be able to get out to the communities. It's something that perhaps the farm bureaus and the agricultural community, RMC, could make sure that everybody has this as an awareness.
We're pushing it hard, and also the fusion centers involved. So whoever needs to respond, it's that we put the team together.
Great, got it. And so, Kim, what do you envision, right? I mean, so you have, the understanding of how to try to prevent it.
Sure.
We know what we can do to report it, should there be anything out there, and maybe get some resources. Are there other entities, are there businesses that can be utilized by the industry, by the community, in order to be able to help them? What is that next step if they're in this process?
Okay, so we're looking at different organizations and industries and whatnot that can help us move forward. In terms of like education and whatnot, we're obviously trying to educate the people. So we're trying to start with the foundation and look at working with MSDE, et cetera, to make sure that we're able to, and of course the universities and whatnot in Maryland. But there are also a variety of other industries. We're also working with CAMI as well, which is our Cyber Security Association of Maryland. That is all of our cyber companies, or a good chunk of our cyber companies, and we need to make sure that if they need to be aware of our needs and our things going out. They also provide internships, they provide externships, apprenticeships. We want to get our individuals, we want to get our people involved, because not only do we have students that we want to educate, but we also have upskilling. So we're also looking at maybe the Department of Labor. They're being involved as well. We have all different programs that are available for people to learn these cyber skills. And I think that really is something that we need to make sure that people are aware of, so, yes.
Can I make one comment about this cybersecurity skills and about cybersecurity careers in general? You don't need to you don't need to be smart in order to be a cybersecurity professional.
Well, you should be kind of.
I know that we hear
I'm a dyslexic history major, right? And my 8th grade girls are doing more advanced math than I was ever able to do, right? And here, I've been doing it for 20 years now, right? So, it's not rocket science, but there's a lot of common sense involved. Mm-hmm. If you're willing to take a little bit of time to understand the lingo, you don't need to be a technologist in order to make a difference. You don't need to understand code and write code in order to contribute to cybersecurity. Exactly. I had a conversation with someone on my team the other day, the communications person. She's a cybersecurity professional. She's translating technical speak into language that other people can understand. That's a career that didn't exist 5 years ago, right? But it's part of it. It's part of instilling this awareness in cybersecurity. She's now in a cybersecurity career by being able to communicate these risks from technical to some things that are digestible by people. So it's never too late. It's never somebody else's responsibility. People have the capability to learn this, and they have the capability to make a meaningful contribution to it.
That's really exciting. So I'm going to talk about, because I think we have a couple of minutes left, and I'm going to talk about worst case scenario here.
Okay.
And we're not John Deere, right? We're not JBS. We're not a big corporation.
Right.
We are one of our small family agricultural businesses across the state of Maryland. And they get hacked. And there's ransomware or there's something. They don't have a big stockpile of money. They don't have insurances that are protecting them from this. What do they do at that moment in time? Where do they go? I mean, you can go to the IC3, but that's reporting something, but nobody's going to come investigate. What's the next step for them? How do we give them help?
Well, I mean, if they're a poultry operation, you just better hope that their birds survive whatever ransomware attack is going on, because even though it's a small farm, that could have a devastating impact on their financial well-being, as well as cause upstream ripples. It's a scary situation when that happens. And I don't want to dismiss IC3 either. I think that's a great spot to begin. All the FBI field offices or your local FBI phone number, they're trained to respond to these things. There are less ag cyber specialists than I would like to see in the FBI, but we're working on that one as well. But they will come in there. One piece that I do want to talk about, as you did mention it slightly, was the risk management piece of this. People think that buying insurance for this type of event is a panacea. You can now go out there and do whatever you want, click on any link at all, because insurance will pay for that. And that's not the case. A lot of these insurance claims are getting denied because basic hygiene wasn't followed. A lot of these insurances aren't getting renewed. It's kind of, if you remember back when long-term life insurance came out, everyone got it, and everyone was cheap, and everyone was happy, and we all realized that thing is not going to last. Same thing with cyber. So there's going to be certain protocols that are going to be tested constantly in order for you to maintain having those policies, and the price is going to go up. There's no other way around this right now in the risk management agency. So the more awareness, the more Kim and the educational process builds in, the easier it's going to be, or the less friction there'll be when it comes time to get that risk management tool.
Got it. Scott, any last words? I'll give Kim last word after your last word. How's that?
Yeah, that was great. So in terms of what to do if you get hit, I mean, if a ransomware attack, you need to prepare for what to do before you get hit, right? So everybody, no matter what your size of business, if you're a small business, obviously you should have cyber insurance. You should be talking with your cyber insurance company ahead of time, know who your agent is, know what you're covered for. Hey, in case we need it, do you know how to buy Bitcoin, right? But obviously the best thing to do, as we talked about before, is to make sure you have access to your files, either online backup or you have them stored on a removable drive so you can recover your operation and get away without paying the ransomware. Right? You may have some embarrassment if some people have access to your information. It's not the best thing in the world, but you can operate as a company. But it depends also. Not every cyber attack is the same. Some of them take out your core operational capabilities. Product is on the line. It becomes a really difficult situation to call for help. Start with the local law enforcement, work way up. CISA over at DHS. They have resources that can help, but the best thing to do, your best option is to mitigate as much risk as you can. Be prepared on how to respond and know in advance who you're going to call in the rough circumstances.
Ghostbusters.
Yes. Ghostbusters, Cyberbusters.
Cyberbusters.
Give us some optimism, Kim. I mean, obviously,
yes.
we're setting an infrastructure.
We are
implementing something in order to be able to do all of this. So what does it look like in a year or 2 years to mitigate these risks and to talk to companies, and how are we going to get to that point?
Actually, I'm really excited about it because I know that it seems like we have a lot of doom and gloom, and many times we want to portray, or we want to make sure that everybody understands the serious nature of this, because it's not going to go away. It's not going to, but I think that we are becoming better equipped, we're more prepared to handle these types of things. The more we know about it, the more we share this information, and this is why people like Scott is so important, because we need to know that it's out there. People can't defend against things that they don't know about, that they don't know is coming. So if the more we go out there, the more that we are able to share information, the more that we're able to be comfortable with what's going on, then that allows us to prepare instead of react. Because that's just the issue. Is now we're reacting right now. We got hit with a ransomware. Well, let me tell you something. They've been in your system for months already. They already know everything about you. They're like Google. They know, okay? So really, it's not an issue anymore. So what we want to prepare. And I think within a year, and I'm very comfortable that within a year or so, we're going to be, and this is based on what's going on at the federal level, this is what's going on at the state level. I think we're really going to be much more prepared to handle these attacks. We've got a lot of good things coming in. I think the education part, I think upscaling our workforce, and I think just simply disseminating the information and making everybody aware of the situation, I think is definitely going to have a positive impact for us. Okay?
So that's a homework assignment.
It is.
So within 1 year,
We'll be not here.
We're
Next year.
Yeah,
2 years
we'll
from now,
be here
we'll come
2
back
years
and
from
report.
Yes.
we really want to be able to make sure. So I'm assuming Charlotte and team that a big part of bringing this very well-intentioned and brilliant team together is to be able to make sure that we can spread the word. So now we are deputizing everybody out here in order to be able to say, listen, this is a big deal for the agricultural community and for rural Maryland in general, to be able to make sure that this information continues to travel. So please make sure that you contact any of the subject matter experts that are up here to help to disseminate the information to those that are within your stakeholder groups and within your spheres, because from what I'm hearing, that the more outreach, the more understanding, the more knowledge about those sticky notes, the better off that we're going to be in the long run. So I think we're good, unless anybody has a question. Yes,
I do
sir.
have a question.
Yes, sir.
I'm involved with a group that's concerned with the grid, the vulnerability of the grid.
Oh, energy grid, right?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
And there are 300 Chinese big transformers in the grid,
Mm-hmm.
two of which have been found with back doors in it.
Yes, sir. Right.
So that's one thing. What I'm trying to figure out, there's one guy in this group that keeps telling everybody that there's IT and there's OT.
Yes, sir.
And the OT people have been left out of the cyber.
Oh, that'll be interesting. Yes.
And so my question to you is he right?
In a way, yes, and I'll take that, because actually I've been dealing with I've been dealing with cybersecurity and manufacturing, and that also includes the energy sector. And one of the things we hear is that the OT, which is operational technology, versus the IT, which is informational technology, that they're not getting along, and that there's friction. Because the OT people are worried about the operation continuing. The IT people are worried about, or just concerned with the cybersecurity. So really, they need to talk to each other. So it's really not one's letting out. It's sort of been it's sort of like we've got West Side Story. We kind of have two sides here, and they really need to come together and talk. And that's why I think cybersecurity is honestly part of everybody's issue. It can't just be IT that takes care of it. OT has to take responsibility for it and understand the importance that it is within their particular sector.
So
I get
it's
where
a problem?
it is a problem, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And it's a problem in manufacturing as well. So it's not just energy grid, it's everywhere. And
So
that's-
everybody needs to put their egos aside and look at the greatest success and how
Yes.
to come together to solve the problem.
that is
That's what it sounds like to me.
and yes,
Yeah.
people are the important component, not the technology.
Mike?
Deterrence seems to be something that you're not really talking about very much. So if I'm a cybersecurity criminal wannabe, and I've developed some technical knowledge, what's the likelihood of me either being found out, caught, or punished as a result?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scott's all over this.
Yeah, this is Scott. He's already geared up.
I talk about cyber deterrence quite a bit, because the truth is, until we impose more laws on bad guys, whether they're criminals or nation states, these attacks are going to continue until they face some real pain on it. Andrew talked about some of the successes we've had in law enforcement, which is great, right? Applaud law enforcement for that. Takedowns are awesome. but there's a lot more criminals out there that are operating in safe havens that don't put deterrents, right? So you can't get them. You need to influence. You need to find a way to influence the nation, the states that they're operating in. So deterrence is a huge issue for both the criminals as well as nation states. We need to make them feel
It
pain.
seems like it's so easy for someone to.
Risk and consequence. We want the criminals to think before they act. We want them to have read the headlines, their friends getting busted and pulled off planes in South Korea. We want them to hesitate. If we can put that little doubt in their minds, that's a law enforcement.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we please give thanks to our panel? We're very, very thankful for all of you, and I'm sure that contact information, should you need additional
Right up there.
information for your local communities, would be great. So thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you.